Hi friends, and welcome back to the Simple Knit podcast. My name is Elina. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Simple Knit Co, and hanging out here on YouTube chatting about all the things that I have been making recently. I hope you're all well. It's been a while since I've seen you again, and to the point where it's gotten like weird, like sitting down and filming myself talking about my craft feels weird. So this video is just like a rip the band-aid off kind of endeavor. I'm not going to start again. I'm not going to do any extra takes. I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to do it. Otherwise I won't. And so you're going to get what you get. Hopefully I remember to look into the lens of the camera and not into my beautiful face while I talk. But once again, I don't know. So it's been a while since I've sat down and chatted with you. It's been a pretty heavy time to be a person, honestly, and I just hope that all of you have been finding ways to show up for your community, both locally and globally, and that you're also finding time to like nurture your soul, nourish your spirit. For me, that is craft. So I'm not going to share with you absolutely everything that I have made since I last spoke to you, because that would go for forever and be quite boring, and some of the stuff I don't have because I've given it away, blah blah blah. So I've just got like a selection of finished objects and just a couple of my current works in progress. I do have other things on the needles as well, but as I said, we'll be here for forever. I don't want to be here for forever, so sit down, grab your craft, grab something to drink. I've got this beautiful rooibos tea. It's a Sakura rooibos tea that my friend gave me for my birthday, and it's delightful and delicious, but like slightly cold because it is now the second day of winter here in Brisbane, Australia, where I am currently situated. I'm always situated, and it's a beautiful sunny day, but it's like it's a little bit chilly, which is exciting. Yeah, we also had a very weird summer here. It was either just like it rained. We've had so much rain for the first time since I think in like 20 years or something. Maybe it's not quite that long, but I read it in the news a couple of weeks ago that the first time in at least a decade the entire state of Queensland is out of drought, which is very not normal. We're a big state, a lot of desert outback kind of situation. So if you were interested in what the weather is like, it has been so wet. Apparently out west it's gorgeous and green, so if you live in Western Queensland, let me know how beautiful and green it is. I haven't been out in Western Queensland for a while, so I'm sure it's gorgeous, but that is not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about what I've been making. So yes, I can put my tea on the table without knocking the camera over. We're winning. So I've already forgotten what I need to talk about, so I've written it vaguely down, so let's see what I can remember. So one of the big crafting things that's happened to me this year is I've started crocheting again. Crochet was kind of my craft before I started knitting. I learnt to crochet. My mum taught me to crochet before she taught me to knit, and the first couple of garments I made were crochet ones. I think because it is slightly faster craft than knitting. Like your piece grows and looks like a thing a lot sooner than it does when you're knitting. Also because you only have like one stitch on the hook at a time, it's easy to rip back, and it's easy to see like when you've dropped a stitch or you've done something that's not quite right. So if you're like craft curious, I would definitely recommend starting with crochet. It's just a little bit, I don't know, easier to get your head around in a way. But anyway, learned to crochet before, have crocheted quite a few things, but since I kind of got really into knitting, like since I knit my first garment, that was kind of it. The crochet hooks started gathering dust. So, but there is a pattern that I will talk about at the end of this video that I really wanted to make that involved some crochet. So I was like, oh, I need to get my skills back up. So I've been crocheting quite a bit. How many more times can I say crochet? Now, the first thing that I'll show you is this beautiful scarf that I made. So this is a long discontinued yarn that we found. So my lovely parents decided earlier this year to clear out their storage unit. They downsized, moved into an apartment at the start of COVID, so like 2020, and all of the extra crap in their house they just put in a storage unit. And when Dad was like, I don't want to pay rent on this anymore, let's clear it out. And some of that stuff was mine, because like every millennial child, I've just got all my crap stored with my parents. So this was some like really old yarn of mine. It was it by Panda? It was called Artisan 12 ply, and it's like a color changing yarn. So this was, I just had 3 skeins of this colorway that is called ? And it wasn't quite long enough for what I would like for a scarf. Like, it's a pretty short scarf. You can't see what that is, but if I look at that doubled over, like, that's not as long as I would want it to be, but it's the yarn that I had and I just wanted to use it. So these colors and this kind of chevron crochet pattern kind of gives me the vibe like the quirky, clumsy love interest in an early 2000s British romantic comedy. Like, very specific, like Kate Winslet plays this character, maybe Emma Thompson plays this character, and she has this scarf thrown on, you know, clumsy, a bit absent-minded, but you know you love her. So I got the pattern. It's just a very simple chevron stitch, but I have this old like magazine leaflet. Once again, this is going to be at least 15, maybe 20 years old. It's the Peyton's Learn to Crochet book. I don't think you can buy this anymore, but here it is. And this, it kind of, if you've never ever touched a crochet hook before, it takes you through like all the stitches and then has patterns that kind of build up in difficulty. So like, you learn a skill, you make a thing. And this was towards the end. It's one of the more advanced patterns. This is some cute stuff. It's just like granny squares. Here it is. It's called Chevron Eyelet Scarf. So I think the yarn that I have is not the gauge that this pattern had. I don't know what that lady is doing. That's a real interesting styling choice. But yeah, it was just very straightforward. I think I knit this in like I crocheted this in like 2 or 3 evenings. And it's just a cute scarf. I didn't even like monitor where the color changes happened. I just started a new ball when one finished. Very quick, very satisfying, and I've actually worn it a bit. So that's my first little crochet project. The next finished object that I have, I only have 1 iteration of, but I did make 4 of these. So it's this amazing, very graphic colorwork cushion. It's crocheted, and it's from this book. It's called Crochet Crush by Mola Mills. She's Mola Mills something on Instagram. But it's this book of crocheted like accessories and homewares. There's the back. I think this is published by Elina. I think she's a Mola Mills, is an internationally recognized Finnish pattern designer. That's who she is. And this pattern, let me just find a picture. There it is. So I made this first one in the same color as the sample in the book because I thought that was really cool and graphic, and I just really enjoy that kind of stark contrast. It goes well with my other couch accessories, my cushions and things. So this is like one of the first crochet projects I picked up. I've never done crochet color work before. This first one is the one I made for myself. Didn't do the beginning of rounds properly, so one of the, wherever the beginning of round is like off. See, this petal looks a bit deformed. And my color work, you can kind of see where I'm carrying the yarn, but I did get better as I went and made a few more of these. And I'm just really proud. I was so proud of myself making this cushion. So the yarn that I used is just from Spotlight. It's a 100% acrylic yarn. It's Marvel 8 ply, which is like for homewares, it just holds up really well. I've made a few things in it in the past, and yeah, it just holds up well. It's easy to work with. I did find using a metal crochet hook, it didn't squeak, which sometimes if you use acrylic yarn, you know. When I tried to use a bamboo hook, which is usually my preference, very, very squeaky. So if you're going to crochet or even knit, I haven't knit with Marvel in a really long time, but I would recommend using a metal tool, and it doesn't seem to squeak as much for me. Nothing worse than that, like that horrible like nails down a chalkboard sound. So I made this one, got completely obsessed with this pattern and obsessed with crocheting. So I made for a few friends for birthdays and things, various iterations of this cushion. So first I made one for my mum, where all of them I used the same like white or off-white creamy color for the light color, and then just this dark color was the one that I changed up. So for my mum, I found this color. This is just my leftovers. This is called Mallard, and my parents have a bedspread in their room that's this color, basically exactly. So I figured this would be a cute one for that they would go with their stuff. So I made that one for my mum. Then for my friend Clarissa for her birthday, I just got her to send me some pictures of like her homewaresy stuff, which was not in a color story. Sorry, someone's in a very bouncy trailer driving past. Thanks, guys. My friend Clarissa, I asked her what kind of colors she's going for in her homewares, and she was showing me lots of pastels, which was not what I expected for her. So I picked up this really pretty blue, which is called Cloud. Really pretty pale blue. It turned out really nice. And then for my friend Ali, I made one in this color, which is called Peach, which is a really nice, like, I'd say like a very pale terracotta, like a very cute peachy color, which basically just from watching her Instagram stories, I knew she had on her bed these kind of colors in her home. So figured it would go with her stuff. They all love them. Well, at least they say they love them. They're all people who are very craft gift worthy and definitely appreciate a handmade gift. So more than happy to send them. Putting them through the post was interesting because two of those people don't live in Brisbane, but yeah, made lots of cushions. They turned out great. Everyone loves them. Talk of the town. Everyone's obsessed, as they should be. So that's kind of my crocheting that I've done. Now on to some knitting finished objects. I'm not sure if you can hear what is going on out there. It's very noisy. So yes, my first knitted finished object is a pair of socks that I finished ages ago. This is a pattern that I've made before, so it's the Easy Feet socks by Jessica Gore of the Sweater Collective that I kind of invert to do cuff down. The pattern's written to be knit toe up, but I prefer to do a cuff down sock. Just did an eye partridge heel flap and gusset situation. And the yarn that I use, let me get this right, is Owl of Athena Delphi sock in the Albadine colorway, which is this really pretty purple. It just kind of has really speckled. You can see it on the stockinette in the sole really well, that it's just this beautiful, like super variegated. It just has like every shade of purple, from like pale and bright to like really dark and moody, just like every shade of purple you can imagine. Occasional little bits of almost like rusty red and like hot pink going through there, but just like a purple dream. These are so beautiful. This yarn base, her Delphi sock, I think is like her Australian merino and nylon base. It's really plump and beautiful to work with. Just was an absolute joy to knit. It's one of those colorways that as you work, it's almost like every stitch is a different color, so it's just really fun and exciting, and I think it looks really beautiful in this kind of squishy slip stitch pattern. I think that's probably my beginning of round there. So like this pattern is great. It looks beautiful. Not really much else to say. They're socks, and now that it's finally getting cold, I can show them to you and now get them off the blockers and wear them. Oh, there's like a sticky spot. God knows what that is. So yeah, they're a pair of knitted socks. I haven't actually knit a pair of socks since I made these, just been kind of off socks, which is fine. I have 1,001 other things to knit. And what will I talk about next? That's the socks. I've also made 2 hats, which is the same pattern. I've only got one of them. The other one was a gift. But this is once again a pattern that, once again, this is a pattern that I have wanted to knit for the longest time. The reason I said once again is something I'm going to talk about later, is also a pattern I've wanted to knit for a really long time. So this is the first instance in this video of a pattern I've wanted to knit for the longest time. This is the bracket hat by Whitney Hayward. I love Whitney's designs. She doesn't design anymore, but you can still acquire her patterns on Ravelry. And this hat is just a beautiful cabled hat that I think would be a really great first cabled pattern, because all of the cables, like, it's really easy to follow the chart because everything kind of works like incrementally together. So you have these like little tiny, like, they're not quite braids, but they're just like, yeah, I guess it's a braid. And then there's these honeycombs, and then whatever these antler things are, I don't know. And there's like a little eyelet detail between them, and it just works up really beautifully. Double folded ribbed brim. I've got a hairband on, so I won't put it on. It's probably ever so slightly too big for me, but it does actually sit on my head quite well. This is like a DK weight yarn, and the pattern is written for like an Aran weight. So this kind of did fit my head pretty well. This yarn was a gift from my dad when my parents were over traveling around the islands of Scotland a couple of years ago. It's from the Isle of Unceded, and it's North Ronaldsay yarn. So they're sheep that live on Unceded, I think. This could be wrong. I'll link it down below. But this variety of sheep that living on this tiny little remote island have adapted to live off of seaweed, which my dad finds hilarious. That they've adapted to the point that if they eat grass, they die. They can only eat seaweed. So they have to be like imprisoned on the beach so that they don't eat grass. They have to eat seaweed, which my dad finds highly amusing. So he bought me yarn from those sheep. And so what I did then, after I made this hat, I have made a hat for my dad previously, and not that he would ever complain about a handmade gift, but he did say, has commented that he would like a hat with a pom-pom. So what I did was I made this same pattern again, but in this yarn, which is Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 10 ply in the Amazon green colorway, a really nice dark, cool toned green. So I made that same hat. I used the same needle size but slightly thicker yarn, so it turned out a little bit bigger, not too much bigger, but a good size for my dad's head. And then I made a pom-pom with the leftover yarn of this that he gave me. It's like a beautiful full circle gift moment. So yes, my parents are off currently cruising around Alaska and Canada, and I think it's a bit cold, so hopefully he is wearing his hat. But yeah, made 2 bracket hats. It's a great pattern. Highly recommend. Would be a great first cable pattern to kind of get you into the groove of cabling, if that's something that you would like to get into the groove of doing. And later in my works in progress, you'll see why I kind of started with a baby cable pattern, because it's something else. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen it, so I don't know why I'm being so suspenseful. Finished objects that I have to share with you are 2 shawls. So the first one, and you actually, with the sun and the light the way it is, you actually get a pretty decent look at this black lace shawl, which is super practical. I've gotten so much wear out of it. I haven't even blocked it yet because I've just been wearing it so much. It was a little bit of a drag to knit because, like, black lace, you really need to be in like decent light, but during the summer we get quite a lot of daylight, so that was fine. And with this knitted border was a little bit tedious too, but so worth it. Like, tedious. It was still knitting, so it was still fun. So this pattern is the Solidago shawl by Jane of Mindful Makes. Oh my god, Jane, is that your podcast name? Mindful Making? I think it's, I can't believe I just blanked on that. Yeah, it is Mindful Making. So Jane is an Australian knitter, designer, podcaster, who has a really lovely podcast, and this is a beautiful pattern designed by her. I was 100% inspired by Katrina It is Katrina of Pirate Pearls Yarn Company, an Australian yarn company. Once again, I'm 90% sure it's Katrina, but it might not be. Back in the game, doing really great. Doing great for my first show back. She knit a black solidago and I was like, oh, I need that instantly. I feel like the black works really well with this kind of very geometric lace pattern. So you can see it's like diamondy, and then this like triangular border I think looks really like striking and beautiful in the black yarn. So the vast majority of this yarn is Bendigo Woolen Mills 4-ply in black. I had a 200 gram ball of that, and 100% according to the yardage and everything, that should have been enough. As I said, I haven't blocked this, so I haven't 100% checked my gauge, but it's like pretty close. I did run out like just shy of halfway down the border. So you knit the triangle, there's like contrasting panels of garter and stockinette and then lace, and then once you've done the final little garter panel, you then work like a knitted border this way. So these little triangles you then knit, so you're binding off the stitches as you knit the border sideways, which takes a while, but it's worth it because it's really beautiful. So I think if I can feel, I can actually barely even tell where I had to change yarns. So I was getting really bummed out because I had a feeling I'd run out of yarn, and then I did run out of yarn. But then I remembered I had this little stash of Peyton's Dreamtime Baby Merino in their 4-ply. So it's just a 4-ply 100% merino. It feels slightly different, so I can feel it around here is where I changed. So I got almost halfway. There's the point. Can you see that? So I had I think I had at least one, maybe two 50 gram balls. I didn't even use the full little 50 gram ball of the Dreamtime Baby Merino 4-ply in black that I had. I've got a little stash for like doing baby makes. So I had that already in my stash, so I didn't have to buy. What is everyone doing? Go home. I didn't have to buy any new yarn to finish this, but I did have to kind of crack into that. I probably used about 30 grams or so of that other black yarn, but as I said, they're both kind of Australian merino yarns, feel vaguely different. The baby merino feels slightly less woolly, but not by very much. Like I'm pretty sure I can feel where the end is, but I'm not even 100%. So I'm stoked. It's a beautiful shawl either to wear this way, up around like that, because you can really see over my black jumper, or I've been wearing it like when I go out of an evening, like wrapping it around. It looks really pretty that way too. So it is a great addition to my wardrobe. I've already gotten so much use out of it. I'm thrilled that I made it. Highly recommend this pattern. It's the first one of Jane's patterns that I made, but it's beautiful. Highly recommend the Solidago shawl. The other shawl that I made is a Aran weight shawl that is almost impractically huge. So I blocked it because I was going away for the weekend. I was like, oh great, I can lie it out on my bed to block it when I finished it. And it was already like pretty big, and I didn't really like stretch it, but because it's garter stitch and lace, it blocked out absolutely massive. So it is like not even on screen. It's like impractically large. So this pattern is the Elfrida shawl by Shannon Cook, which is another pattern I've wanted to knit for the longest time. I've never knit a Shannon Cook pattern before, but she's one of those designers that like I've always wanted to knit one of her patterns, and it was 100% worthwhile. This was so fun to make. So you start way down at this little end, like you literally I think cast on like 1 stitch or 3 stitches, and then you have this like garter stitch border alongside this very simple lace pattern that makes these like little trees. It's just so darling and so sweet. And then that just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And then after that, you knit a big garter stitch panel with these slip stitches that is just like so squishy and beautiful. And on the reverse side, the way you do the slip stitch detail, on the reverse side, it just looks like plain garter stitch. You actually can't really see where the slip stitches are. It's just genius. So it's like there's different texture on either side. It's so beautiful. This yarn is Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 10 ply. The colorway is Ghost, and I used 3 skeins. This is how much I have left over of the last one, and I think I actually may have done like 1 row less than called for, because we're supposed to have however many rows of just plain garter stitch and then an Icelandic bind off. And so I did the Icelandic bind off from the wrong side. So I think I may have done like 1 row less. This may have been enough to do the 1 row, but it also may not have been enough. So use like all of the 3 skeins. And so it's like a 600 gram Aran weight shawl. And it's like, I knew it would be big. So like it's much longer than my torso. It's really like a blanket, but also because it's this asymmetrical triangle, it's not really a blanket. So far I haven't worn it out of the house yet. It hasn't really been that cold yet. Well, it's been cold, but not that cold. So it's been my kind of couch blanket. So like sitting on the couch in the evening, knitting or watching TV or reading. That's mainly when I've been wearing it, but it's super cozy. This garter stitch is just so squishy and beautiful. It's just like the perfect gauge. I think I used whatever the needle size is in the pattern, and the garter stitch just worked up so perfect, so squishy and perfect. And these little trees I just think are so cute. So I highly recommend this pattern. If this is too big for you, definitely if you go down to like a DK weight, I think even a sport weight, you would get, and down like a couple of needle sizes, you would still get a really good sized shawl that wouldn't be quite so impractically large. But it is beautiful, it's cozy. You can wear it wrapped around your neck, so like that. Definitely like schlanket, shawl blanket kind of stuff. Actually, I could probably wrap this around again. There you go. You'll never be cold, and it does look quite nice. Even though it's huge, it does look quite nice. So that is the Elfrida shawl, which was, yeah, so much fun to knit. I think even while I was making it, I was like carrying it around in my bag, which meant I was having to carry like the largest purse known to man to accommodate the project and the yarn, but worth it. It's beautiful. I love it. And yeah, be great for like going out in winter evenings, but also just like sitting on the couch and being cozy. So I think that's everything except for my Klein, which is what I'm wearing. So that's my final finished object that I'll talk about today, is my Klein jumper, which is a pattern by Julie Hoover. It is just a simple stockinette jumper. I've got a little video of me wearing it, so I'll like pop that in so you can see what it looks like as a whole. But it's knit in pieces and seamed. It's this beautiful dolman shaped jumper that you knit from the bottom up in pieces, seam it, and then it's got a really nice double folded 1x1 ribbed collar, really good like 3/4-ish length sleeves. I knit this the 4th size in this pattern. I use the recommended needle sizes. I knit all the components to the exact length that the pattern wanted it to be. I did everything exactly as the pattern told me to, and I'm really stoked. So obviously like the real showstopper part is the beautiful yarn that I used. So this is the Hedgehog Fibers Tweedy yarn in the Noir, so the black colorway, which is like a very bougie yarn for me. I did get it on sale at the Yarn Bowl, so it's like not quite as, but it was still like even on sale, it was like an expensive yarn for me, but it was so worth it. I've wanted to knit with it for the longest time, and it is just absolutely like breathtakingly stunning. So it's this black, I think like Falkland merino and something base. This is a little bit pilled because I've been wearing it a lot. And then little recycled fiber bits that are just in like every single beautiful color of the rainbow. Quite a bit of pink and orange and dark blue in this one, which just I think looks really, really stunning, and it's really beautifully distributed throughout the yarn as well. Some of the little there's even like some little bits of stellina and stuff, so it just like little like moments of sparkle. Most of it is pretty well spun in. Some of it's a little bit like precariously spun in, but very easy to either like weave it in as you knit, or then if there was any little bits that weren't quite attached, I just use a crochet hook to like weave it into my knit stitches, and that seems to have worked really well. As I said, I did everything in the pattern exactly as it told me to. I even did the whatever it is, like cabled cast on, which is like a knitted cast on, which was an absolute pain in the butt, and I don't think was really, I mean, it's black yarn so you can't really tell, but like it doesn't look that much better. To my eye, barely looks any different to, like, I usually use a German twisted cast on, and for the like knitted cast ons are just so fiddly. I don't like them. I much prefer a long tail style cast on. So like I did it, I tried it. I'm just gonna do a German twisted cast on if ever it asks for a cabled cast on, because knitted cast ons are very fiddly and annoying to me. And so yeah, and everything, like I was on gauge, I used the recommended needle sizes. Everything is the length the pattern tells it to be. For all of my seaming, if you ever need to do any seaming, Brooklyn Tweed on their blog has a it's like a tutorial post, I think it's called Seaming 101, that has everything about seaming any direction pieces together. So like if you have like your seaming bits that are like knitted in different directions, it gives you really clear instructions of like where to put your needle as you're seaming to get really nice seams. So it's basically mattress stitch, but I just use their like top to top and like side to side seaming as it is explained in that blog post, because every time I go to do a seam I second guess myself. So I get that blog post up and just like use the pictures in that to guide me, and that really has made seaming 100 times easier for me. I highly recommend, like, that single blog post is like one of my favorite like knitting tutorial anything on the internet. And yeah, I've gotten so much wear out of this. I think it's so beautiful. The kind of the dolman style with the yarn I think works really well together. It gives kind of like a subtle 80s vibe, and yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful. The one thing, I have knit this pattern before, and wow, I'm a much better knitter than I was like 5 years ago, because my goodness, this turned out so much better. I think the last one I knit like a size smaller than I probably should have. Like I didn't block my pieces before I seamed them. Like it was just kind of a much more, I feel like I did a much better, much more professional, much more knowledgeable job of knitting the pattern this time. But both times I've knit it, I've ended up with so much yarn left over. I have a full skein of this yarn that is completely untouched, which is like a little bit annoying because it's quite expensive yarn. And I think from the last time I made this jumper, I had the same thing. Like I had one skein completely untouched, and with the leftovers from all the rest of it, I probably have close to half a skein. So I have like a lot of yarn left over, which is, and once again, like I'll use it, but and like according to the yardage of the pattern, it's not even like I needed like 20 yards of the, or 20 meters of the last skein. Like I should have used, if you, even with a 10% buffer, I should have used a decent portion of that final skein that I bought. So that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously your mileage may vary, and if you don't buy enough yarn, it's not my fault, don't listen to me. But I've knit it twice, and both times I've ended up with a significantly less yarn used. And this one I definitely knit exactly as per the pattern. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, I love it. I think it's beautiful. It feels very me. Wear a lot of black, but also love a little bit of color. So like there's the yarn and the style, like it just feels very, I feel very myself in this project. So yeah, I love it. And hopefully I've put that video in so you can see what it looks like, you know, in situ. The last thing I want to show you before I talk quickly about 2 works in progress. The other weekend, my mum and I went to a Tunisian crochet, like learned a Tunisian crochet class at the Yarn Bowl, which is a yarn shop on the north side of Brisbane, and hosted by Terry Lanham from Terry Designs. I'll link her Instagram down below. She was so lovely. And yeah, we learned to Tunisian crochet. So we got a little hook and a little ball of cotton and made a little dishcloth. And I'm so proud of myself. So this little gingham dishcloth kind of uses all of the 3 different stitches in Tunisian crochet. So you've got like Tunisian simple stitch, and then there's like Tunisian knit stitch, Tunisian pearl stitch, and then some little like moss stitch things. As you can see at the beginning, like wasn't great at managing the end of my row, but look how much better I got by the end. It's so fun learning new things because you get so much better so fast. So I did maybe like just shy of half of this in the class and then finished it off at home. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure like what I would like do with Tunisian crochet. I have to have a better look at like some patterns and things. I'm not really sure. I haven't really seen like garments in Tunisian crochet. So if you know of any, can you please tell me? Most of it seems to be more like homewares and things, but it does come very nice. And the Tunisian simple stitch looks a lot like linen stitch. So that's the right side and that's the wrong side. It looks a lot like knitted linen stitch, which is really great for anything like you want to be quite like thick and substantial. But yeah, this is like so proud of myself. Like the first things you do always have these like weird details, like this weird side. But I'm just feel so proud of my little tiny dishcloth. Haven't used it yet. Don't know if I'll be able to because it's like a little sampler. I'm just so proud of myself. But super cute little Tunisian crochet, and it's really not that hard. It's a little bit fiddly the first time you do it, like anything, but really fun to do. So the last thing I want to share with you guys, I feel like I've been like running a marathon talking through everything, is 2 works in progress that I have, kind of the 2 garments, the 2 big garment projects that I have on the needles at the moment. Where did I'm sitting on one of them. So the first one is a project that I really wanted to knit, but felt really, I don't know why I let myself get so intimidated. Oh, that's a bit of a behind the scenes of how I live. So sorry, I was sitting on it. I was really intimidated. So I had this book, Aran Knitting by Alice Starmore, and these bits that I just pulled out from under my butt, it's this pattern here. So it's called Na Kraga, and it is a beautiful, you can see it pretty well. It's just an all over cabled pattern. This book is full of all these all over cable patterns. They're kind of based on classic Aran knitting and styles. There's a picture on the back, like amazing, but all over cables. And because it's a book and there's lots of patterns in here, there isn't like a lot of instruction. It's kind of this pattern, all of the instructions are kind of on like a page and a half, and then there's a page of charts. And so like when you're increasing, like I got the yarn, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I really want to knit a book pattern from this book. And then I looked to start, and it kind of just says like do increases or do decreases, and doesn't kind of tell you, it doesn't like hold your hand as much, tell you like what stitch to do, where to do it, how to work it into the chart. It just says do it, which really intimidated me. I'll be honest with you. Like I had this yarn, I've wanted to cast this on for so long, and it took me a really long time to cast it on because I found it, yeah, like got really intimidated. I was like, am I doing it right? When I do these increases, am I doing it right? I was like looking at everyone's trying to work out which Ravelry projects had made the same size as me, and like seeing if they had a picture of the pieces before they were seamed together to work out how they did their stitches. And I was like, once I got started, it's like, I know how to do all of this. Why did I let a book make me feel bad? That like I'm not a good knitter, because I am a good knitter. And I've done 2 bits already. So usually when I do pieced patterns, I did this with the client, I like to do my sleeves first because they're a little bit smaller. That way I did gauge swatch for this one, but like with the client, I just did like the cuff and then knit a bit of the sleeve and really use that as my gauge, because kind of your gauge in situ then. And then it's not too much to rip out if it's not right. So I started with a sleeve, and then I realized for the saddle, you needed to have the front piece with the shoulder made so that you could get the saddle to be the right length. So I knitted this sleeve and then had it on hold. Then this is the front piece. So the other change that I've made is I have shortened the length by probably close to 10 centimeters, because as you can see, the way the model is wearing it, like it's coming quite far down her torso, and she's probably quite a bit taller than me, and will probably be making a smaller size. So just from when I looked at how long it wanted the front piece to be, and I thought about like my body, that that's too long, that's not how I want to wear it. So I took a different knitted jumper, actually just measured the length from shoulder to hem of my weekender that I made recently, because I love the length of that, and used that kind of as a guide. I did have to kind of not modify my sleeve, but I don't have quite as many increases in the length of my sleeve as the pattern calls for. I did do a gauge swatch and I've worked out my gauge. I think I'm using the recommended needle size, but like worked out my gauge. But in the journey of the pattern, my stitch gauge is on point, but my row gauge is much looser than the pattern calls for. And like I'm actually using a thinner yarn than the pattern calls for. So this, as you can see, once again, look at this. Like this looks quite a bit more dense, and the cables are quite a bit more like voluminous, because I'm only using an 8-ply yarn. I don't think I've even told you. It's Bendigo Woolen Mills Woodland 8-ply, which is this really pretty grey yarn with rainbow tweed, having a real rainbow tweed moment. And it looks so good. It looks so good in the cable pattern. The tweed is very subtle, but I think really cute. But yeah, my row gauge is like way looser. So when I got to, I think I was meant to do like another 2 or 4 like increase rounds. So probably at least another 5 centimeters of length. I looked at this, and this was slightly longer than the sleeve was supposed to be when you'd finished the increases in the pattern. And it was definitely long enough for me. So I just stopped, because the way the construction is, there's like this shoulder saddle, and then there's no armhole shaping on the body piece. So you just seam the armhole like along the body, however long it is. And this is plenty deep enough for me. So there was no issue. I just stopped the sleeve early and then did the little saddle. So yeah, it's just, this cable pattern is so easy to keep track of. All of the cables kind of work on a similar pace. So like there's a 4 row repeat, an 8 row repeat, well, a 4 row repeat and 2 8 row repeats. So it's very easy to like keep track of, like all the charts kind of start over at a similar time. So I just kind of keep track of, there's a little bit of mohair in this yarn, so it's a little bit fluffy. But just like keep track, like just move a marker up every 8 rows to work out where I'm at in the repeat. But it's very easy. Like once I kind of get started, I don't have to look at the charts or the book, because I've done it so many times. So yeah, that's the front piece. I'm absolutely thrilled with how it looks. Maybe the only thing I'm like about is, so the ribbing is like this, has this little twisted stitch, so it makes these little wavy shapes. And like, I don't mind doing it because it's like part of the pattern, but maybe if I were to do this again, I would just do a regular 2x2 rib, and maybe not quite as deep. Because I have shortened the body a little bit, the rib, that bottom ribbing is a little bit wide. Maybe it looks fine, but maybe just to my taste. The other thing I'm going to be altering is this neck situation. So it kind of, let's see from the other picture, you can see it a bit better. Yeah, you kind of can. So it's just like quite like kind of like a funnel neck with like, it just kind of has a rolled edge, and that is not my vibe. I think it's also not a lot of other people's vibes, because a lot of the projects on Ravelry have the neckband edited. Either I'm thinking I'll either do like, because all of the cuffs are going to have this twisty stitch, either doing a single or a double folded neckband, either just in a 2x2 rib, but I might do it in this stitch just to mirror the rest of the hems. And maybe if I do it like double folded, I'll just do that twisty on the outside and then just a regular 2x2 rib on the inside, or I might just do like a single layer. But I will cross that bridge when I come to it. So yeah, like halfway done. I'm so proud of myself. This is just so beautiful. And yeah, don't ever let a pattern make you feel inferior, because you can do it. Don't let a pattern intimidate you. I'm sure you're able to do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So the last project I want to talk to you about doesn't look anything like it's going to look. Just grabbing, I've got a picture of the pattern because you all aren't going to believe me. So it is the Prairie Skies by Imke von Natius. I can't, read her name. It's the Prairie Skies by Imke von Natius. And it's this really cool pattern in this issue of Pom Pom. I believe it's available for individual sale now. But as you can see, it's got like a crocheted yoke. So you make like granny squares and sew them together, and then a knitted body. So I'm making this out of Bendigo Woolen Mill's Rustic 8-ply in, this is Snow Cloud, but a grey colour. So this is the back yoke piece. I've made all the little squares and triangles and sewed them together. Seaming these together took like 3 hours, but I've woven in all my ends. It's blocked. That's the little back yoke piece. And I've also crocheted, I think like 10 of the little squares for the front piece. So that's just the little grey granny squares. I'm keeping them in little stacks of 5. And I made these ones kind of when I was out and about, so I haven't woven those ends in. If I make the squares at home, I weave the end in as soon as I finish the square. But I've got this little pile of 5, so I'm gonna weave these ends in before I do any more. I think I've only got like 6 or so more squares to make, and then I'll be able to weave the front piece, or seam the front piece together, seam the shoulders together, and then start picking up the stitches for the body. I just think this is a really cool concept, having the crocheted yoke and then the knitted body of the jumper. This is also why I was wanting to do a few little crochet projects, just to get my crocheting back in the ball game. I honestly don't think I've made a granny square since my mum taught me to crochet when I was like 12. So it's not hard. I just did what the pattern told me. Yeah, granny square is like the first thing everyone learns, but then everything I've made has not really been granny square focused. I've seen some people on Ravelry have done really cute things, like they've done like multicolored granny squares for the yoke, which looks really cute. Mine's a slightly more simple, just all grey. And yeah, I think this is going to be beautiful. It's a really nice kind of like deep yoke. Yeah, I'm really excited for this project. And then once I've finished all the crocheting and the seaming, it's just like a top down knitted in the round situation. So it'll be very, very simple, straightforward knitting from here on out. But I'm really excited for this project as well. I think I can stop talking now. And I'm sure as soon as I will switch my camera off, people will stop driving noisy vehicles directly past my home. But let me know in the comments below how you're doing, what you're making, what you have made, anything you want really. You can say whatever you like to me, as long as it's nice, because I'm a delicate flower and I don't like anyone saying anything mean to me. So, not that I've ever had a negative comment ever. There's like 5 people who watch this. But if you're one of the 5 people who are still watching, give me a shout out, say hi in the comments below. It's so lovely to sit down and catch up with you all again. As I said, I hope you're all keeping safe and well. I'm so grateful that you all come and check in with me sporadically. and share your time and your making with me. I really appreciate it. One of the very few sincere things about me is how much I just love knitting, and I love knitters. So yeah, give me a shout out below. Let me know how you're going. Hit me up on Instagram. I lurk over there all the time. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well, and I will hopefully talk to you super soon. Bye guys.